The bucket hit the side of the well with a hollow clang, and Elias Boone froze. Something had moved out there, past the fence line, in the rippling haze where the land bled into sky. He straightened, hand tightening on the rope. The windmill creaked overhead, slow and uneven, the sound of old bones turning in sleep. Nothing else moved, just the heat, just the hum of the locusts. Then he saw her, a small figure, swaying as she walked, half shadow, half shimmer. The kind of mirage a man saw after too many hours in the sun. But the way she stumbled, too real. She collapsed once, tried again, and the distance between them closed to 100 yards. Elias let go of the rope. The bucket splashed, water spilling over his boots. He moved toward his rifle propped against the porch rail. The girl kept coming. Her hair hung loose, black as crow feathers, her skin gray with dust. She was barefoot. A torn doeskin dress clung to her shoulders, streaked with blood and sand. Her lips were cracked, eyes half closed. Comanche. Elias felt his pulse drum behind his eyes. Out here, that word meant trouble. Raids, burned wagons, widows crying over empty cribs. He should have turned his back, shut the door, waited for her to die on her own. That's what the others in town would have done. But she kept walking. By the time she reached the trough, she could barely lift her head. She felt her knees beside it, hands trembling. Elias watched her fingers dip into the water, spill it before she could drink. He set down the rifle. "Easy," he said quietly, stepping closer. "Don't waste it." Her eyes flicked up, dark and wild, like a cornered animal. Elias crouched, scooped a tin cup from the bucket, filled it, and set it before her. The girl hesitated. Then, slow as prayer, she drank. One sip, then another. Her breathing steadied. The only sound was the water slipping between her fingers. Elias looked out toward the ridge again. The land was still, empty, for now. When he looked back, she was studying him, calm now, sharp as a knife's edge. There was something proud in her stillness. She said one word, low and musical, almost lost to the wind. "Cuba." Elias frowned. "What's that?" She didn't answer. She pushed herself up, wobbling, and pointed east toward the open desert. Then she turned and started walking. He called after her once. She didn't look back. By the time the sun slid down and the shadows stretched long, she was gone, swallowed by the heat and dust. Elias sat on the porch as the sky turned copper, the empty cup beside him, the windmill creaking overhead. He muttered into the wind, more to himself than God. "Reckon that's the right thing to do." The coyotes answered him somewhere out beyond the ridge, and the night began to listen. The ground trembled before the sound reached him. Elias Boone woke to the rattle of the tin lamp on his nightstand. The air was still, too still. Then came a low roll, not thunder, not wagons, hooves, many of them. He swung his legs off the cot and reached for his rifle. The boards beneath his feet were cool, the kind of chill that came before the sun broke the horizon. He stepped onto the porch. The sky was the color of rust, and the land beyond his fence was moving. Riders. They came from the ridge, black dots growing larger, fanning out in a slow, silent line. Elias raised the rifle, then lowered it. There were too many. Dozens. Maybe more. The dust behind them lifted like smoke. He could see the glint of sunlight on spear points, the faint shimmer of painted shields. Comanche. His breath thinned. The world narrowed to sound. The clop of hooves, the soft rattle of tack, the steady creak of the windmill spinning slow above his well. They didn't charge. They didn't shout. They just spread, a wide circle forming, slow and perfect, until Elias's land was ringed with motion. He stepped down into the yard, the rifle hanging uselessly by his side. The horses shifted, restless, snorting. Faces painted in ochre and ash watched him from all directions, silent, unblinking. At the head of them sat a man draped in buffalo hide, his hair braided with bone. A scar ran across his cheek like a white river. He rode closer, one slow step at a time, eyes never leaving Elias. The farmer felt sweat run down his spine. The rifle's weight seemed foolish now. He set it down on the porch rail. The chief, Iron Bear, Elias guessed without being told, stopped 10 paces away. Neither spoke. The wind carried only the sound of the horses breathing. Elias nodded once, dry-mouthed. "If you're looking for the girl." No answer. Iron Bear's gaze was calm, unreadable. His men held still, the circle tightening a little, dust curling around them like smoke from a sacred fire. Elias's hand twitched toward the bucket by the well. The memory came unbidden. The girl's cracked lips, the word she'd whispered. Tuba. He looked back up. The circle hadn't broken. Hours passed that way. Or maybe it was minutes, maybe eternity. The sun climbed, burning away the cool. Sweat stung his eyes. No one moved. When the heat grew thick enough to choke, Iron Bear raised his hand. The warriors halted their slow tightening and sat in silence again. A warning, a waiting. Elias stayed where he was, hat pulled low, the sun glaring off his rifle's barrel. The circle held. The windmill groaned once, and the sound echoed like a prayer no one dared to finish. By dusk, the riders still hadn't left. Wind pressed against the valley like a hell breath. The house was gone to gray wood and silence. The well still stood. The windmill still turned. 2 riders halted at the edge of the property. Drifters, maybe bounty men, maybe just lost. One spat dust from his mouth and stared. "You ever heard the story?" the older one asked, pointing with his chin toward the sagging porch. The younger man shook his head. "Old farmer lived here once. Name was Boone. Folks said he faced down a whole Comanche warband. Alone." The wind answered for a while, dragging sand across the fence posts. The porch door creaked, though no one touched it. "They say they came at dawn," the old rider went on. "Surrounded him clean, thought he was finished. But come sunrise, not a soul was harmed. The riders left and never came back." The younger man frowned. "Why'd they spare him?" The old one looked out at the well. "He gave water. That's all they ever said. Gave water when no one else would." The air turned cold as evening fell. Coyotes called from the ridge, their cries thin and sharp. "Some say the Comanche buried a mark out there," the old one added. "A gift, or a warning." He dismounted, walked to the well, and brushed the dust aside. Stones ringed its base in a near-perfect circle. Beneath them, half buried, the edge of a carved gourd gleamed faintly, its lines smoothed by time. The younger man bent down, tracing the symbol, a circle crossed by one straight line. He didn't touch it long. The old rider spat again and looked west. "Desert don't forget kindness. Just takes its time remembering." They rode off without another word. The night settled back into itself. The stars came one by one, sharp as glass. The windmill groaned, drawing water from the deep with a sound like breathing. Far out in the dark, something moved, the soft rhythm of hooves, faint but steady, circling the land once, twice, then fading into silence. The lantern inside the house flickered to life, though no match was struck. It burned low and steady, as if waiting for someone who'd stepped out just a moment ago. By dawn, the riders were gone, and the valley was still. Only the well remained, whispering its slow secrets to the wind. And somewhere, in the hush before sunrise, a voice older than the land itself seemed to murmur through the creaking blades. Maybe the desert don't forget kindness, maybe it just waits a while to pass it on. The fire cracked in the center of the yard, and every shadow leaned toward it. Elias Boone sat on the ground, rifle across his knees, eyes stinging from the smoke. The circle of riders still held, a ring of faces glinting red in the firelight. No one had spoken since sundown. The air pulsed with waiting. Then, from the darkness beyond the circle, a single horse moved. The rider was small, straight-backed, wrapped in a blanket woven with color, red and bone-white and black. The horse stopped at the chief's side, and she slid down. The blanket fell back. Elias knew her before he breathed. The Comanche girl, the one from the well. She stepped forward, her bare feet silent on the packed earth. The chief, Iron Bear, turned to her, and the quiet broke into a low murmur among the riders. Her voice carried through it, soft but cutting through the wind like a blade. She pointed at Elias. One hand touched her chest, then the sky. Words followed, quick and rhythmic, the language of the plains. Elias caught only one sound he understood, tuba, The murmurs stilled. Iron Bear dismounted. The fire caught the scars across his chest as he approached. His shadow swallowed Elias whole. "You give water," the chief said slowly, the words thick with effort. "To my blood." Elias didn't move. Iron Bear's gaze swept the yard, the windmill, the well, the pale light spilling from the open door. He nodded once, almost himself. Then he said, "You give life." The girl stood behind him, eyes steady, hands folded before her. The firelight made her look older, like a spirit risen from dust. Elias swallowed hard. Didn't know who she was. Iron Bear's eyes lifted to the stars. "Now you do." He reached into the pouch at his side and drew out a small gourd, carved with a circle crossed by a single line. He placed it on the ground between them. "For you," he said. "Mark of water. Mark of peace." No one else moved. The air seemed to stop breathing. Elias looked at the gourd, then at the girl. She nodded once, the faintest hint of a smile ghosting across her lips. The chief turned and spoke in his tongue, low, firm. The riders began to move, breaking the circle for the first time since dawn. Elias sat still as they rode out into the dark, the fire sinking to embers. The girl mounted her horse last. She looked back only once, raising her hand in silence. The hoofbeats faded, swallowed by the wide, empty night. Elias reached for the gourd, fingers tracing the carved symbol. It was warm. Above him, the windmill creaked again, slow, even, drawing water from the earth like a promise kept.